Hey guys, glad you stopped by. Today we're going to continue canning. It's a new week, and I thought now that we've touched on water bath and pressure canning both, I thought we would do some more water bath stuff. Mostly because spring's coming around the corner, and a majority of, not all, but a majority of things that you would can in the springtime, because canning for most people is broken down into 2 seasons, but we do it almost all year long. And in the springtime, when the majority of people can, they're canning fruits. Because cherries will be in season soon. Oranges are coming in, good oranges, things of that nature. Blueberries, blackberries, you make jams out of them, things of that. And then of course in the fall, late summer into fall, you'll have vegetables coming out of your garden. Although if you do it right, you can be doing that in midsummer too. Because I know we'll start like doing tomatoes and processing tomatoes in the end of August, beginning of September. And then, the winter time, when for us is usually when I'll clean out the deep freeze and make some stuff out of pot roast that I bought over time. Because remember, most things in the freezer are only good for about 6 months before they start to get freezer burn. Sometimes you can get a little longer out of them, but for the most part 6 months is kind of the general rule. But that being said, so today we're going to water bath oranges. Mandarin oranges to be precise, like the cuties you buy at the grocery store. And you're thinking to yourself, Brian, why would you want to can oranges? Well, okay, so we started canning them about 4 years ago when things kind of ran amok and it was hard to get a hold of things. And oddly enough, the one thing you could usually find in a grocery store kind of regular was vegetables and fruits. Everybody was going for the canned goods and things like that. Well, then supply chains started having problems, and these were kind of hard to get a hold of. Plus, you can buy mandarin oranges in the containers, right? So we started, when I could get fresh ones, we started canning our own. It's a lot cheaper, a whole lot cheaper than buying the prepackaged ones. And like these ones here, I bought 2 bags. It cost me $6.50. They were on sale, and they're sweet. I've had a few, but I got 6 pounds total. They were 3-pound bags, $3.25 a piece. You can buy 6 of those little containers in a package, and it'll cost you $3.50, and you don't get nearly the amount you get out of 6 pounds. So we started doing our own, and we really like them, and they are so easy to do. They're hands down one of the easiest things to process. Because they're citrus, you don't have to worry about the acidity level so much. They're already packed full of acidity because they're citrus. It's no different than when we put lemon juice back in the strawberry jam a while back to raise and balance the acidity level. These are naturally raised and balanced. And cuties, for as long as they last, or mandarin oranges, they'll last 3 or 4 weeks sitting on the counter, before they start to truly go soft. But if we can these, once again, at about a year, maybe 2, as long as that jar stays sealed, chances are good they're gonna be good, and that's something we can talk about later on down the road. But you're gonna get at least a year out of these, and they're still gonna taste good. Now, that being said, they are kind of time consuming in the fact you have to peel every single one and break them up and make sure you have no pulp on them. But I'm gonna show you how to do that, or at least how I do it. If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, thank you and welcome back. Along with new subscribers, hands down, village is always growing. Or I should say neighborhood is always growing. We're about to village status. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Comments, always welcome. Just be nice. Think before you type. It's okay to disagree. That being said, why don't we head on down to the counter now, and we'll start into this adventure. All right, hold on for me just 1 second. Okay, we are down here at the counter, and the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to peel are oranges. Now, like I said a second ago, the rind is not your friend. So like all the white stuff that's on there, you want to get as much of that off there as possible because it is bitter. Just like when you zest, you don't want that white part because it's bitter. So you want to get as much of it off as you can, if not all of it. Now I've seen a few videos out there that I've yet to watch that show you how to get all the rind off, but like I said, I haven't watched them yet, so I don't know a process for it, but I'm going to show you mine. And what I do is I take a butter knife, but you could use any knife, and the side where the stem was, at the top, I just simply go around this. Maybe. Let's try a sharp knife. Yesterday I used a butter knife, but I think it was a different butter knife, obviously. But I go around the top, just like such, pop the top off, right? Then I take what would have been my butter knife and I slide it underneath that rind, just like that, and I get it started. What this does, it helps to loosen it up. Yeah, and I just want to do the top. Then I would grab my sharp knife and I would just simply go down along the skin. Now I don't want to break all the way through it, just like such. And then that way I can peel it without too much hassle. And what that does is it takes off a majority of the rind. See? And then after we get this peeled off, like that, I simply go through and I pull all the strings. I don't fuss with, like, if it's like big chunks like that there, I pull them off. But like this little bit that's on here, I don't. And that way I get, because we're gonna put this in a syrup. We put ours in a syrup, and then that way we don't have to fuss with worrying about the little bit of bitterness that may occur with the little bit of rind that's left. I do mine into slices, and as you can see, I sliced mine. I got mine already done. Now I actually did these yesterday. If you're going to do something like that and do them a day in advance, because like I said, I mean, it took me about an hour to do all of those, which isn't horrible, I don't think. And most of that was just because I forgot my process. I didn't write it down, so I didn't remember. And then I just stuck them in a freezer bag, pushed most of the air out of them, used a straw, sucked it out, and then stuck them in the fridge until today. But once I get the outside done and I pull it apart, all this in here, that is the most bitter stuff ever. So you want to make sure you get that out. It's not horribly hard to get out. You literally just pull it out and clean it up. Then after you get that done, you just stick it in the bowl like such. And in this case, I'm gonna pull those right back out because I actually have enough in there to do what I want to do. And then we can move on to the next step. All right, we are on to the next step now. Excuse me. And we got all our mandarin oranges peeled, and we got the rind off of them. Life is good. So now, in this pot, or this pit, in this saucepan right here, I have 6 cups of water. To that, I'm going to add 1 cup of granulated sugar. Now, this is a medium syrup. You can make a light syrup, you can make medium syrup, you can make a heavy syrup. No different than when you buy the fruit at the grocery, or the cans of fruit, at the grocery store. Mixed fruits and heavy syrup, things like that. We're gonna make a medium syrup. Now, I can leave down in the description below the recipes to each of those so you can do them. Or you can just use water. There's no rule that says you can't. Now, the only thing I would caution you on with water is we did not get every last little bit of the rind off of these. I don't know how like the major canners, Dole and people like that make these you buy in the grocery store, get it off of theirs. I'm sure they have a really cool machine that costs like $1 bazillion, but we don't have that, so nah. And they still put it in syrup, but you can do it in water. You'll get that bitterness full force if you don't get enough of the rind off of there. So we're going to use a medium syrup to kind of help balance that out without giving us diabetes in every bite. But like I said, you can use water. That's not a problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this come up to a simmer, get all our sugar melted, right? Get it all dissolved into the water, bring it to a simmer, and then as soon as it hits the simmer, I'm going to turn it off and take it off the stove. Okay, so one thing I forgot to mention while we're bringing this up to a simmer and dissolving that sugar is you can go ahead and get your water bath canner together. So I went ahead and filled it up with water as much as I think is it's going to need to cover the jars. And something that was brought to my attention on the Strawberry Jam video, and I'm not sure how I missed to tell you this, but I did pin her comment at the top so you could see it, was how much water to put in this. That's a good question. Here's the rule of thumb. This is kind of the rule. Is once you get your jars in here, that water should be at least 1 inch to 2 inches above the jars. That way, as it steams and boils, it doesn't boil down below your jars, because that can cause you a whole host of problems. Your jars could crack, things could not process evenly. There's bad things that could happen that way. So you want to make sure that that water, when you put your jars in, is at least 1 inch or 2 above. And I'll mention that again when we go to put the jars in here, but I wanted to tell you now. But so I've got my jars in here, or my water in here. I've got my pan in the bottom to keep the jars off the bottom of the pot, and I'm letting that warm up, so that way I've got warm jars, warm syrup, or warm container, warm syrup. I got my jars in my sink in really hot water, and that way we're kind of balanced all the way across the board. Our oranges are at room temperature. But anyhow, let me get this done, and then we can move on to processing. Okay, so we got our syrup up to a simmer, pulled it off, and I just got it sitting here. So the next thing we're going to want to do, and you could even do this while you're bringing that up to a simmer, is we're going to pack our jars. So when we pack our jars, we'll put our oranges in there. We're going to bring our syrup up to a 1/2 inch from the top, but we want to make sure that we don't drop any oranges on the floor. We want to get these in here as tight as possible. Fruit and vegetables have a tendency to float, so we'll put them in there, get them down as good as we can, but we're going to bring these up to about the top. We just don't want it to have to touch, we don't want it to touch the lid, is the big thing. Because like I said, these bad boys are going to float, and we'll want to go, a 1/2 inch, sorry, a big piece of rind on there, about a 1/2 inch from the top, but we want them packed. That way they don't float. Yeah. Okay, we got our jars packed. So now all we have left to do is get our syrup in there. Now, you want to, when I learned how to first do this, I actually didn't look it up on the food preservation site or the, oh God, I can't think of the other site you can use. But anyhow, I actually saw somebody else do this, and they packed their oranges all the way up to the top. I mean, just so they would they weren't just a hair off of the lid. I don't recommend doing that exactly, but you can. And so, but we're going to go ahead and get our syrup in there, and I knew that I had 7 pints in this case because I pre-packed my jars and then dumped it out, so that way I can make my syrup and know exactly how many jars I needed for us. But that it's kind of like a cheat, and I'm sharing it with you. And that's not something you can do all the time, but in this case we could. So we're going to go ahead and get our syrup up in here, and we're going to fill it up to about the halfway mark. Okay, we got ahead, and we got all the syrup in our jars. So now I'm just going to take a plastic spoon, the end of a plastic spoon in this case, because I don't own a tool, an air bubbling tool. I used to, which is fine. You just don't want to use anything metal to go down on the sides of this. We're just getting all the air bubbles out because there's gaps in there, right? We don't want gaps. We don't want air pockets in our product, because what can happen, it can cause it to boil up and siphon out, and then all of a sudden you don't have any liquid in your jars, and that's bad. Yeah, because then you won't be able to store it. Like I said, I think I said it in the last week's video, you want to make sure that, you know, your product, it's okay to have some that's not covered in liquid, so to speak, but you want it to be no lower, and this is the final resting spot, so to speak, than a half the product. So, you know, you want to keep as much of the liquid in there as possible, preferably all of it. But we are at, after I did that, I went ahead and I took my measuring stick, because once again, I don't have a debubbling tool, and made sure I was at the 1/2 inch mark from the top. That's important. And then what we're going to do next, and this time I'm actually going to use vinegar. I want to make sure those are good and clean. We're going to take our vinegar, and I'm going to put some on my rag. Vinegar, much like hot water, vinegar takes off everything. You know, it will strip any sugar, you know, sweetness, debris, any of that stuff off these rims. I'll do this because our water isn't really hard, doesn't have a lot of minerals in it, being city water. But after with the vinegar, if you just take like a cap full and dump it in your water like that, what that does is it keeps any minerals off of, or anything that might be in your water, off of the outside of the jars. On occasion we'll have it happen. If I can find a jar downstairs, I'll show you. But it'll you'll get like this film on the outside of your jars, and I know in our case it's a white film, and all that is the minerals that are in your water adhering to the glass, and it just makes them look weird. But the food's fine on the inside, it just makes them look weird. So to prevent that, put a cap full of vinegar in your water. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, like always, we'll go ahead and get our lids on. And then we'll grab our rings real quick. Now, as far as jars and lids and rings go, you don't, as long as you're processing your product more than 10 minutes, you don't have to sterilize the jars. Just wash them real well. Your lids, you need to make sure they're washed because there's oils on them from where they were made, but you don't have to sterilize those as long as you use ball. Your manufacturer, whoever you buy your lids off, might be different. I have lids that we bought out in Amish country where those have to stay hot, you know, in order to activate that glue. With ball, you don't, and there are a few companies like that. Rings, you just want to make sure they're washed. So we got our lids on. Now we're going to put our rings on, and when you put the ring on, down evenly, finger tight. You know, now I know some of us, including myself, fingers don't always work so well, don't always have the strength. But you want to go finger tight, but you don't want to do is death grip it and twist as hard as you can. There is a little bit, I mean a micro gap in that lid, between the lid and the jar, that's going to allow the air to escape before it seals. So once again, fingers on as tight as possible. Okay, got our lids on, everything's finger tight. So next thing we're doing, I'm going to use my grippers this time to put them in here because this water's been on for a minute. So it's pretty warm and I really don't want to run the risk of burning my hand. So we're going to go ahead and get our 7 jars in here. and I got the one in the center there to help minimize the rattling around, although I don't think they're going to do too much damage. But this is what I was talking about earlier. See how that water is above the lids? It's above the lids by about 1 inch to 2 inches. That's probably about 1.5 inches. I know it's hard to judge on camera at any rate, but we're about 1.5 inches. And I've got my plate on the bottom, one in the center to minimize. So now, what are we going to do next? We are going to put our lid on it. I'm going to bring you back over here so I can talk to you. Just like that. Okay, so what do we do next? Well, next we are going to bring this up to a rolling boil. You don't need a like beastly, all-out volcano boil. You just need a good rolling boil. Once it starts to do its rolling boil, we will set our timer. We're going to set our timer for 25 minutes. And once that 25 minutes is up, we're going to talk about what to do next. All right, see you here in a second. All right, so our oranges have boiled, and I was wrong on the time. It's not 25 minutes. I don't know what I was thinking. It was 10. It's 10 minutes. We're going to let those steady boil for 10 minutes. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and turn off our heat, right? And then we're going to take this lid that is not the warmest by any stretch of the imagination. It's so easy to get burnt while canning. So always be careful for sure. So we're going to open up this lid away from us. See that steam? That's why we open the lid away from us. And we're going to let this sit for 5 minutes, right? Once that 5 minutes is up, we can remove our jars from the water. Okay, so our 5 minutes is up. So now we can go ahead and get our jars out of our water bath. They are done processing. And we'll go ahead and bring you one over here so you can see it. And I don't know if you can see it on there, but it is a bubbling. Yep, right there by the tong. And all we have to do now is like the other two things that everything that I've canned that's in the playlist, we're going to let these sit on a rack, and we're going to let them cool for 12 to 24 hours. I mean, some things, realistically, some things don't take that long, but it's best practice to do the same thing every time. Like the strawberry jam we did. I mean, it was sealed in less than 12 to 24 hours, but it's always good to let them sit for at least 12. So we'll go ahead and get these out of here. Okay, so we got all our jars out of here. They're on a rack. And like I said, we're going to let these sit for 12, 24 hours and cool. And you want to put them in a place where they're not really going to be disturbed. Because you don't want to try to move them around too much, or fuss with them. Now, even though I haven't heard it yet, you're going to hear, you should start hearing a ting. It'll sound something similar to this. Which means that they're sealing. And they'll tell you not to go through and touch them and make that noise. What they can do inadvertently is give you a false seal, which means you may think it's sealed and move on about your day, but we're going to check for that when I come back, and it didn't really seal. So just let them sit, listen for it, and it can take hours. It can take seconds. It can take hours for them to properly seal. I don't know the science behind that. I just know it's true. So I always just kind of walk away, listen for them. When they've cooled down at 12 hours, I'll check them. So when I come back, we'll check these seals and see where we're at. All right, hold on for me 1 second. Okay, so it's next morning. We let our, it's early the next morning. It's like, the sun's not even up yet. It's like 4:30, 5 o'clock. And we let our oranges sit overnight. I am excited to try these. I love fresh canned oranges like this. You can't go wrong with them, really. So what we'll do is, after we let them set and cool for 24 hours, 12 to 24 hours, next thing we're going to do with these, right? We're going to take those rings off. We're going to take our jars, find a place to grip it, and we're going to hold it by the lid. If it stays, it's sealed, right? Just like always. Then the next thing we're going to do is put the date and what it is on there, like always, and then we can store them. These turned out gorgeous. Look at those. It's absolutely gorgeous. I can't hate on those one bit. They got good color to them. We didn't have any siphoning, which was nice. I'll take that every day of the week. And when you open it, you should be able to hear that sound. Just like that. Wow, it was noisy, wasn't it? That means these had a really good seal on them. That's a good thing. But let's go ahead and give one a try. Make sure we did it right. That's the important thing. Those are good. They taste just like mandarin oranges. I'll take that every day of the week. So, sorry. I'll eat the whole jar. That's the worst part, is I will eat the whole jar. But you should be able to get 2-3 servings out of a pint. In the comments for the strawberry jam, somebody had asked about, was the canning process the same for everything? And the short answer is yes, but kinda. The changes on that, yes, the canning process is the same. You're gonna put the lid on it, you're gonna put it on finger tight. What can vary is how much you put in the jar. Some things like the strawberry jam was 1/4 inch from the top. These were 1/2 inch from the top. The hamburger was 1 inch from the top, which is called head space. And the time of processing can vary. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of variance. What lies in differences are the things you can and can't do, and those are the rules. Like you can't can with. I'm not gonna say you can't, but you shouldn't by any means can with rice or noodles or flour or cornstarch or starchy things basically, or thickeners. They can throw off the balance in your jar. It usually turns to mush if it's like noodles or rice. There's just a lot going on there, and you can buy it from the grocery store that way because those manufacturers have special machinery and processes they use that you probably couldn't fit in your house and or afford to buy to make those. So I don't ever recommend doing things like that. But for the most part, once you learn the rules, because there's not many, but they are important, you can kind of explore a little, right? You just have to know the rules. You have to worry about acidity levels, low acidic and high acidic. You want high acidity in things your water bath can't, hence the citrus of the oranges. You don't have to worry about that as much when you pressure can, because you get the heat up so high that it'll kill off any bad bacteria that's in the thing that you're processing. But that's where time becomes, the thing you want to look for. How much time does it have to stay at that 240 degrees? But for the most part, yes, the process is the same. You're going to put it in a jar, you're going to put a lid and a ring on it, you're going to stick it in whatever it is that you're going to do with it, and take it from there. Now, if there's something you want to see me do so you see the process, just let me know down in the comments below, or as always, Facebook, Instagram, or there are always trusted sources, National Center for Food Preservation, even Ball with their canning processes. They have a website. I think it's the USDA. has a site that has some stuff on it, and then you got all your little satellite National Center for Food Preservation places that they're usually at colleges that have recipes. That can basically, the possibilities with those are endless. So that being said, give these a try. They really are so easy. You peel, pack, put your liquid over top of it, water bath it for 10 minutes, and you have got something that's going to last you at least a year. And that's awesome. Ours won't last a year. Hey, matter of fact, so real quick, and then I'll let you go. I know you got someplace else to be. Remember I was talking about how I paid $3.50 for a 3-pound bag of these? I was just at the grocery store yesterday after I got a can of these. They are now up to $7 a bag. So we picked them up just at the right time. But anyhow, next week I have no idea what we're gonna do for dinner yet or dessert. Not even sure what we're canning, but if you have any ideas, let me know down in the comments below. And we'll see what we can't do for sure. And until then, I love you. I love you very much. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Tell somebody else that you love them, that you love them very much. They may need to hear it. It's gonna make them feel good on the inside. It's gonna make you feel good to tell them. And then you can give them a can of oranges, or just sit down and have a conversation and eat a jar of oranges. And they're gonna know it, right? We need conversation. We need to hear the I love yous. That's for sure. So, till next week, I'll see you then. Love you. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.